Shannon was diagnosed with a very rare form of leukemia when she was 16 years old. And she was basically from then on had 2 years straight in hospital. 1 year in Sydney, which is full of basically highly experimental procedures, a lot of radiation, a lot of chemo, followed by a bone marrow transplant, which her and I were a perfect match for. So I gave her all of my bone marrow, which unfortunately didn't work. It was too strong. And she then went to Melbourne for a further year of treatment in Royal Melbourne, followed another bone marrow transplant as well too. Shannon, I guess I'm a little bit biased. My daughter was the type of girl who always put everyone first, even from a very young age. When we were in hospital, she was always looking out for other people. She would have me wheel her around to other people in other rooms that she knew hadn't had visitors for a couple of days, so she'd actually sit with them. She always checked on me when she woke up in intensive care. The first thing she'd do was say, "Have you eaten? Have you slept?" So she was that sort of a girl. She's a wonderful girl. During our time, I was very fortunate. Shannon and I are best friends anyway. I say our best friends. I was fortunate to spend 16, 18 hours every day with her, so I didn't leave her side. And we talked a lot. It was great for me. It probably wasn't great for an 18-year-old girl to hang out every day with your dad, but I loved every second of it. We came into contact with a lot of great people in the hospital, nurses and doctors who were all doing wonderful things. But along the way, we learned that it was the everyday people going through everyday things who were there for treatment themselves or who were helping someone else in the hospital. The little things they did actually got us through. You know, just making little meals for Shannon when she was on chemo and your taste changes constantly. Or remember one of the times Shannon crashed and there was 14 doctors working on her and reviving her, and I just stood there and cried. I didn't know what to do. And a lady on the ward just came up and held me like a mum. Just came up and gave me a cuddle. Her husband died 2 weeks later on the ward. But it's those little things that just people just go out of their way. They're going through so much, and yet they give a little bit more to someone else who needs it. And that really impressed Shannon and I. And we started speaking earlier on about what we could actually do to give back. As things moved along, unfortunately, we ran out of treatment options for Shannon. And they spoke to both of us and said, "Where would you like to be? Where would you like to be when you died? It's going to happen soon." And Shannon said, "I just want to be at home. I haven't been home in 2 years, so I just want to be at home in my bed." And again, I know this is my experience, and I know every single person in this room has been through something, so I'm sorry if this is triggering for you. I'm not trying to do that. It was just how our charity came about, that's all. Shannon came home and she was actually at home for 4 days with me. During that 4 days, it was pretty tough because I didn't know what to expect. Shannon was blind at that stage and she was completely dependent upon me. I didn't know how long I had her for. I knew that I was just going to try and do everything I could, but unfortunately where I was, which is outside Talbot, I was on the edge of about 4 different healthcare services, so there was no after hours help and there was no weekend help at all. So I just wasn't sure what was coming. I knew what was coming, I just didn't know how to help Shannon. So on the second day, Shannon had a bleed into her spine and she was in a lot of pain. Luckily enough, came into contact with Dr. Claire Hepper, who came out and helped Shannon and then sat with me for hours and talked me through some of the things that you could actually, I could expect over the next couple of days, and some different things I could do to help Shannon as well too. And then being a typical male, I listened to about half of it. The next day, I rang Claire up again and said, "Can you come and tell me again?" I only took about half of that in, if that's okay. So she sat there again and went through everything with me. And she left me with an emergency symptom relief pack, which was just full of some medications and things that could help Shannon over the next couple of days, just to help with fear and anxiety and breathlessness, a bit of pain, things like that. I used that pack 4 times over the next 4 days. If I didn't, I would have had to take Shannon back into hospital and she would have died in hospital, which she didn't want to do. She's had enough time in hospital. So I was very thankful for that. On the day she died, she said, I love you and I'm glad I'm home, I'm comfy. And she said, "I want you to promise me that you'll help anyone, anywhere with anything." So I said, "That's a very easy promise to make, no worries at all." So she died in my arms later that night. A week later, Claire and I met and said, "Right, what do we do?" What do we do here? I've got no medical experience whatsoever apart from helping Shannon. I was a firefighter for all of this. I spoke to Claire and we talked about getting some emergency symptom relief packs, which are basically just something to help the family, give them a bit of confidence and give the patient a bit of confidence if they'd like to be at home. It's not to replace any of the medical services, doctors and nurses, we can't do that, but it's something to help in those areas that there mightn't be an after hours number, there mightn't be a nurse or anyone to call. So we started by raising money for about 2 packs. You thought, that's a good start, there we go, we've done something. And that quickly grew to 8, 10, 30, and I think now I would have 1,000 sort of going across Australia and overseas as well too. Doing a lot of these talks that we're doing today, it's great because we get to speak to people and find out some real things, and everyone's been through something. I love people who come up and after me and have a chat to me as well too, and we did that all along the time that we were raising money for the packs. As we're doing so, people were coming up to us saying, you need to do more. You know, these packs are good, but they're a band-aid and that's all they'll ever be. You need to do more. As a carer, I'm not telling anyone in the room to suck eggs, I know that. If you're a carer, that's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's your job. There is just nothing else. Life stops, everything else stops, bills, shopping. We thought we actually need to put some people in place that can help these people, these carers, do some things as well too, even just the peripheral things like the shopping or cleaning or sitting with dad for an hour so that person can rest, or going and getting the medications, little things like that. That again seem little, but to that carer, to that family, they're huge, absolutely huge, because it gives them breathing space. We went through the whole very painful process of becoming a charity and getting insurances and all that proper stuff we're meant to do. It took us about 18 months to do. People who help us, volunteers, I think Claire and I were initially saying we need someone who can do some cooking, and maybe someone who can do some transport, and maybe someone who can sit with someone. If we've got those 3 things, we're covered, that's all we need. Within the first training session, we had so much more people just coming up with wonderful lived experience and some just backgrounds I hadn't even thought of, but when you speak to them, you think, that's amazing, that's really great, and yes, you can definitely help people. A lady said, I hate people, full stop, I don't like being around them, but I love pets. Can I help you at all? And we went, yep, that'd be awesome. So she goes and takes care of all the animals on the farm, so the farmers can go get their treatment, or so mum can go and take it easy for a while. There's always something that you can do, and we've been so lucky. They volunteer now for us for pet therapy, art therapy, music therapy, massage, Reiki, you name it. There's just people coming out of the woodwork saying, I've got something to give. And we moved into working with a lot of Lions and Rotaries and different groups that were talking to us as well too, and just give them the confidence to say, hey, what you're doing now in the community as far as going and sitting with someone, going and giving someone a meal, having a cup of tea with someone, mowing someone's lawn, that's what we do. Okay? There's no special talent to what we do. It's a matter of knowing and being there for that person and just having a chat to them, or being with them, or doing that one little job for them. From where we were to where we are has expanded exponentially. We've assisted about another 65 organisations like us to sort of start. Basically go to them and say, look, here's everything we've done from start to finish, including all of the mistakes we've made. And there's been a lot of those. It's hard to get started in this area. Where do I go? What do I do? Who do I talk to? What do the people need? What can I do? We've got that all on a thumb drive, and we actually give them out to organisations and say, here you go. Here's our policies and procedures and insurances and everything else you need. Take our name off it, put yours on it, there you go. So everything we do is for free. From that grew so many things. So now we do a lot of advanced care planning. We also do a lot of equipment now. We didn't actually intend to move into that area, but it was just something that happened. We wanted to get a hospital bed, a wheelchair, the basics. When people are in hospital, it might be a limiting factor to get them home, and that the hospitals won't let someone home unless they've got a hospital bed or a sit-to-stand or a wheelchair or a hoist, something like that. So we fundraised for a little bit. But now we work with aged care facilities and hospitals all over Victoria who give us all of their second-hand equipment. We do that up and give it out to anyone who needs it, be it a family member, an organisation, places like health services out the back of Burke, literally in Burke, that just didn't have any money or funding. So I think last year we've given out about $1 million worth of equipment, and that's still growing for us as well too. We're not a service, we'll never be a service, and we're not even going to try to replace wonderful medical services we have there, but there are lots of gaps within the IS or my aged care, and especially with COVID, things are taking longer and longer and longer for people to get things. It might be funding to help them around the house, it might be for equipment. So we step in where we need to. And we do a lot of overseas work now, which we didn't expect to do. We work with Rotary and send a lot of our equipment overseas to Fiji and Russia and Germany and places like that as well, wherever it's sort of needed, basically. There's an amazing amount of goodness just in communities and just in societies. It amazes me every day. I still struggle of a day missing the little girl. Every single day I have to wake up and think of a reason to keep breathing. But you talk to good people who are doing good things and helping so many good people, and you can't help but think this is a pretty good world, this one. It's not too bad at all. All the goodness that we see all around us, that's what keeps us going. It's been wonderful to see what's happened and where we're going. So thank you very much for having us.